Tom, when it comes to listening to local markets, how have you put in place processes, structures to kind of make sure that feedback loop is closed, is closed back, so that you're listening to what's going on?
And I think that's just about, like you say, the process that you have involved. So making sure that we're listening to the markets, keeping them regularly updated with conference calls, and making sure we put aside that time to listen to the markets and have that ability to feedback. So I think it's nothing more than the kind of monthly conference call thing with an allowed slot for feedback into whether it be social, whether it be search, PPC, website conversion, and anything, and also us giving them data in terms of what we think is going on in the market. So website analytics, and then having that as a discussion point to say, right, okay, there was a huge peak from referral traffic last week. What's happened? Is there anything on the ground that's happened to cause that?
Okay, Stacey, when it comes to sort of your angle, there seems to be quite a lot of different ways that the markets, the way that you described it, all the markets seem to work quite independently for you. So how are you grouping back some of the learnings from that sort of localization process to move on in that thinking?
Sure. Yes, some of the markets do work independently, but some of them are much more centralised. And across the team, it's really important that we're sharing the knowledge between us. So right. We have within our marketing team, there are people responsible for different clients that work in. Some are very territory specific, some are just global, and it's very important that within Perform we're sharing that knowledge with each other, and seeing what works and translating that back and communicating that back to our clients as sport. Social has been quite a strange curve actually in sport, because when I first joined Perform, certainly we were desperately trying to get sports clients to engage with social media, because the fans, it's a perfect fit with what we find is that sports fans will watch sport while they're on social media, and they'll be blogging and posting about things that are happening. Gary Neville's goal shout on Monday went through the roof.
Pure mank. That was repeated. I tweeted that immediately. Gary Neville's shout was pure mank, and it just went bang out there.
It just exploded.
It did.
Chelsea, the Chelsea Barcelona game was the most tweeted about event. It had the most tweets per second, and it broke the Twitter record. So for sport,
it broke Twitter there.
It almost broke Twitter. Yeah, no, it had previously, but again, yeah. But so sport is a very natural fit, and we've had to really it's been really important to monitor our learnings and share them and keep sharing them with the clients, because at first clients were like, sports clubs, you can imagine going to Chelsea and Spurs and saying you need to be on social networks, and their directors going, forget it. But we now have clubs.
If you tell them that what Manchester United were doing, then they would pay attention.
Yeah, Manchester United have been phenomenal, but they're not on Twitter, which is...
Yeah, I had that conversation.
It's such a strange strategy.
So I've lost a lot of arguments with them on.
So in your situation, is it a case that you necessarily, perhaps for you, Julia, you can control very much the strategy as it rolls out, and you can almost do things before they've been a part of a formalised strategy, and then demonstrate the benefit and then turn them into that.
Yes.
Whereas
we are much more reactive.
You're working with such a fluid and huge volume out there. There's no way that you could prescribe how things should work. So
we do try to control it, and we have, particularly on clients such as Premiership Rugby is a really good example, where we work very closely with Premiership Rugby themselves, and we plan our posts a week in advance, because with sport you can't really plan much further ahead in real times. So we'll plan kind of what we're going to say, how we're going to start conversations, how we're going to seed conversations, and then monitor them rather than engage with those conversations. So it looks like we're engaging, but we're not really. We're just kind of controlling and watching.
And how do you choose when to step in? That's crucial there.
That is crucial, and again, from our point of view as Perform, we're very much about commercialising. So for us, it has to be on a sales level. but we have to also guide our clients from a customer service level as well. And when do they step in and kind of curb comments or make phone calls and things like that. So it's a much more blended strategy of, rather than saying we're going to do this and we're going to engage at this point and we're going to control it this way, we have to be much more reactive to what's going on.
That must be really hard. With an Irish Heineken Cup final, for instance, the opportunity to make money but also change strategy.
Yeah.
That must have bent you around a bit in the last week or so.
So fluid.
Yeah.
And that kind of comes with the territory of sport, because you can plan any kind of campaign, whether it's email or advertising. You can put the player in the campaign and then he breaks his leg the day before you launch the campaign, or England don't qualify and progress in the World Cup. That happens all the time in sport, so we're fairly used to it, but it's a knackering industry to work in.
I can imagine. So you need 4 fallback strategies dependent on what happens.
Almost, yeah. Yeah, there are, depending on the size of the campaign. So to kind of bring it back to social, for the Premiership final at the end of May, we'll say, okay, right, if this happens, we're going to put these posts out. If this happens, we're going to put these posts out. If people start to react in this way, we're going to do this. You kind of have to have a number of kind of option A, B, C, down to F, probably. But it sounds very time consuming, but really it's minor tweaks and making sure that you're just very on top of what's happening in your sport, which is why my team's so big.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask that. I mean, can you just talk to me about how your team's structured? How many people are doing this monitoring process, and what are their skill sets, and what are they doing day in, day out?
We have, there are 12 overall in my team. We have 5 marketing executives. They are all responsible for a number of clients. So we've got racket sports, we've got kind of almost kind of other, with equestrian and darts and things like motorsports, and then we've got 3 guys that just work in football, and 1 just works in Norwegian football, so it's very specialist. And we then also have a marketing manager that works on basketball, and he's responsible for all of basketball, which is quite a massive area. It's massively growing at the moment. So each of those individuals are responsible for every single element of their marketing, from affiliates, campaigns, advertising, subscription management, social media, search, and I guess kind of why we're kind of not more involved and kind of developed in our search strategies and our PPC strategies is because they struggle with time. So we'll pick up some conversations later, I'm sure, but from their own backgrounds, we've got varying different backgrounds, from never done it before to done it for most of their career and things like that. But what is really great about with the social media side of things is that they've all, although they may not have necessarily worked from a business point of view with it, they have all grown in the last however many years using it on a personal level. So they will understand how it works. They're not terrified by kind of social media because it's just a part of their everyday lives. These people are generally kind of 24 to 28, 29, so that it's just a part of their everyday life. They're not scared of it. They don't necessarily understand how to commercialise it yet, but they know how to engage with people. And we set controls to say, you should do this, you shouldn't do that, and things like that. And also they have to control what they're saying on social media as well, because they work for Perform and they represent a number of sports clients. So if one of my members of staff are kind of slagging off Tottenham Hotspur and they're one of our biggest football clients, it doesn't go down very well. So there are rigid controls for us as a business as well to consider.